Step back tens of thousands of years to a world of relentless cold, towering glaciers, and survival against all odds. This is the story of prehistoric humans, the discovery of fire, and the struggle to endure the Ice Age. The Ice Age was a period defined by harsh extremes, an era when the world was draped in thick sheets of ice and glaciers stretched over continents, reshaping landscapes and challenging every living creature that attempted to survive. For early humans, this was a time of unimaginable difficulty. Unlike modern humans, equipped with advanced clothing, heated shelters, and abundant food supplies, prehistoric humans faced the raw elements directly, with only their wits, instincts, and primitive tools to protect them. The challenge was not just surviving the cold itself, but navigating a world where food was scarce, predators were abundant, and even the landscape could betray them with sudden shifts in weather or treacherous ice fields. These early humans, often referred to as Homo sapiens and their close relatives like Neanderthals, were forced into a constant state of adaptation, learning over generations which strategies allowed them to endure and which mistakes could cost them their lives. The cold was relentless, and its effects were felt in every aspect of life. In the harsh northern latitudes, temperatures could plunge far below freezing, and snow could cover the ground for most of the year. Water sources froze, making access to fresh water a daily struggle, and vegetation was sparse, limiting the availability of plant-based foods. To survive, early humans had to develop an intricate understanding of their environment, learning when and where to hunt, how to recognize signs of approaching weather changes, and how to find shelter that could protect them from wind, snow, and ice. Caves, overhangs, and other natural formations became crucial refuges, but even these offered limited protection. Inside these shelters, humans had to innovate, using stone, animal hides, and wood to create rudimentary insulation and barriers against the biting cold. Diet was a constant concern. The freezing temperatures meant that many plants were unavailable for months at a time, forcing humans to rely heavily on hunting large mammals that were adapted to the cold, such as mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, and reindeer. These hunts were not simple, they required planning, cooperation, and strategy. Early humans would track animals across vast icy plains, often in small groups, understanding migration patterns, seasonal behaviors, and even the dangers posed by predators that shared the same territory. Hunting these large mammals provided not only meat but also fur and bones, which were essential for clothing, shelter, and tool making. Every successful hunt could mean the difference between survival and death during the unforgiving winter months. Adaptation went beyond food and shelter. Early humans had to evolve culturally and socially. They learned to cooperate in ways that increased their chances of survival, forming tightly knit groups where knowledge could be shared and responsibilities distributed. The harsh climate demanded collective problem solving. For instance, some groups developed complex methods for storing food to ensure it lasted through periods when hunting was impossible, while others learned to create fire pits that could sustain heat for extended periods, allowing them to cook food, ward off predators, and maintain warmth through the night. The knowledge of how to maintain fire was particularly critical, as fire was not a naturally abundant resource and could be lost if not carefully tended. Passing down this knowledge from one generation to the next became a matter of life and death. Clothing was another crucial factor in survival. Early humans experimented with different ways to protect themselves from frostbite and hypothermia. They used animal hides and furs, sewing them together with sinew to form simple garments that covered the body as effectively as possible. The process of preparing hides was labor-intensive, involving scraping, stretching, and tanning, all of which required both skill and patience. This was not a task taken lightly, as improperly prepared clothing could fail in extreme conditions, leading to rapid loss of body heat. Layering and adapting clothing to changing conditions became an art form, honed over generations of trial and error. Migration patterns also played a key role in survival strategies. Early humans often moved in response to environmental pressures, following herds of animals or relocating to areas with more favorable conditions. This mobility required them to carry tools, fire-starting materials, and knowledge wherever they went. The constant movement meant that early humans were intimately connected to the land, observing seasonal shifts, animal behaviors, and climatic patterns with remarkable precision. These observations allowed them to predict weather changes, locate food sources, and avoid natural dangers such as thin ice or avalanches. Such foresight and adaptability were critical for survival in an era when the environment could shift dramatically within a matter of days. The psychological and emotional resilience of early humans should not be underestimated. Living in extreme cold for extended periods required not only physical endurance, but also mental fortitude. The constant threat of starvation, exposure, and predator attacks would have tested even the strongest individuals. Maintaining social bonds and rituals likely provided a sense of stability and security in an otherwise unpredictable world. Storytelling, the sharing of experiences, and perhaps even early forms of symbolic expression may have helped groups bond, pass on crucial survival knowledge, and reinforce cooperation. These cultural practices were as vital to survival as the physical tools and skills humans developed, providing a framework for learning, memory, and community cohesion that could withstand the pressures of the Ice Age. Even technological innovation emerged as a direct response to freezing climates. Early humans learned to create more effective hunting tools, such as spears, blades, and atlals, which allowed them to hunt more efficiently and from a safer distance. They experimented with constructing insulated shelters from wood, bones, and hides, and they discovered ways to manipulate fire to produce not just warmth, but also light and protection. Over generations, these innovations accumulated, creating a body of knowledge that allowed humans to survive in regions that would have been otherwise uninhabitable. Each small advancement, whether a sharper stone tool, a sturdier shelter, or a more reliable method for starting a fire, represented a significant improvement in the odds of survival. Disease and injury presented additional challenges. In cold climates, wounds could become infected, frostbite could incapacitate or kill, and malnutrition could weaken the immune system, making humans more susceptible to illness. Knowledge of medicinal plants, bandaging techniques, and care for the sick likely evolved in response to these pressures, further demonstrating the remarkable ingenuity of prehistoric humans. Every aspect of daily life was shaped by the climate, from hunting strategies to shelter design, from clothing preparation to social organization, creating a deeply interconnected system of survival strategies that reflected both necessity and ingenuity. Early humans' fight against freezing climates was not uniform. It varied across regions and over time. Populations adapted differently depending on local conditions, resources, and the species of animals they relied upon. In some regions, humans developed specialized skills for hunting marine mammals or fishing in frozen rivers, while in others they became expert trackers of large land mammals. Despite these differences, the underlying challenge remained the same: to endure, adapt, and survive in a world dominated by ice, cold, and scarcity. Their survival depended on observation, innovation, cooperation, and resilience, qualities that would shape the trajectory of human evolution and lay the foundation for the development of civilizations in later millennia. Fire was one of the most transformative discoveries in the history of early humans, an elemental force that fundamentally altered the trajectory of survival, culture, and adaptation during the Ice Age. Before the mastery of fire, prehistoric humans were at the mercy of nature, exposed to freezing temperatures, predatory threats, and the limitations of raw food sources. Fire became more than warmth, it became a lifeline, a tool, and a catalyst for social, technological, and cognitive evolution. Its discovery was not instantaneous, but a gradual process, likely born from observation, experimentation, and the rare opportunity of harnessing naturally occurring flames from lightning strikes, volcanic activity, or spontaneous combustion. Early humans watched in awe as fire consumed wood and spread heat, realizing that its power could be brought under their control if they learned to reproduce it reliably, maintain it, and transport it. The earliest encounters with fire were fraught with danger. Uncontrolled flames could destroy shelters, harm individuals, or consume essential resources. Yet, the potential benefits far outweighed the risks. Fire provided immediate warmth in a world dominated by freezing temperatures, allowing humans to survive harsh winters and cold nights that would otherwise be fatal. This newfound ability to produce and maintain heat extended the range of habitable environments, enabling groups to venture into regions previously considered too cold or inhospitable. The presence of fire allowed humans to expand across continents, adapting to diverse climates and establishing settlements that would form the roots of civilization. The practical applications of fire were numerous. Cooking food was among the earliest and most significant uses, transforming raw meat, tubers, and other edibles into more digestible, nutrient-rich forms. Cooking not only improved caloric intake, but also reduced the risk of disease from parasites and pathogens that might have been present in raw food. This innovation allowed humans to extract more energy from their diet, supporting brain growth, physical strength, and overall health. It is likely that the control of fire directly contributed to the evolution of human physiology, particularly the development of larger brains, as energy previously expended on digesting raw food could be redirected toward cognitive function. Fire also played a critical role in protection from predators. The glow and heat of a controlled flame acted as a deterrent, keeping nocturnal predators at a distance and giving early humans a safer space to rest, socialize, and strategize. The flickering light of fire transformed the darkness, revealing dangers and opportunities alike. Humans learned that fire could be used in tandem with stone tools and weapons, creating strategies for hunting or defense that leverage both heat and illumination. Campsites with maintained fires became focal points for communities, creating safe zones where knowledge, stories, and skills could be shared. The ability to make fire on demand marked a significant technological leap. Early humans likely began by transporting embers from natural fires, carefully maintaining them with insulation and fuel. Over time, experimentation led to friction-based methods such as rubbing sticks together, striking flint against pyrite, or using specialized tools to generate sparks. These methods required skill, patience, and careful observation, suggesting that early humans engaged in deliberate problem-solving and experimentation. Mastery of fire was not merely about survival, it became a symbol of human ingenuity, a controlled element that separated humans from other animals and allowed them to manipulate their environment in unprecedented ways. Social structures and culture were profoundly influenced by fire. Gathering around a fire encouraged communication, teaching, and storytelling. This communal aspect fostered stronger social bonds, enabling the transmission of knowledge across generations. Elders could instruct the young in survival strategies, tool-making techniques, and the nuances of hunting and foraging, all in the warm, illuminated space provided by fire. Rituals, early forms of entertainment, and symbolic practices may have emerged in these spaces, transforming fire into not just a tool of survival, but also a focal point of social cohesion and cultural identity. Fire's role in shelter and construction further enhanced human adaptability. By understanding the effects of heat on different materials, early humans could harden wooden implements, cure hides for clothing and bedding, and even modify caves and structures to retain warmth. Controlled burning of grasslands or forests may have been used to manage landscapes, drive game animals during hunts, or prepare soil for plant growth. Such environmental manipulation demonstrated a level of planning and foresight, allowing early humans to shape their surroundings rather than merely react to them. Health and hygiene were also indirectly influenced by fire. Smoke from a fire could repel insects and reduce the prevalence of disease vectors near campsites. Heated tools or stones could be sterilized to some degree, allowing for safer preparation of food or treatment of injuries. The combination of warmth, light, and smoke contributed to an overall increase in life expectancy and resilience, allowing groups to thrive in conditions that would otherwise have been lethal. The psychological effects of fire should not be underestimated. Fire provided comfort in a world of constant threat, a tangible source of control in an environment dominated by chaos and danger. Its presence reduced fear of darkness, mitigated stress, and enabled rest, reflection, and planning. The ability to manipulate such a powerful element may have inspired creativity, problem-solving, and abstract thinking, laying the groundwork for future innovations in art, tool-making, and social organization. The cognitive impact of fire extended beyond survival. It shaped the way humans perceived the world and their place within it. Mastering fire also encouraged experimentation with new forms of food and materials. Roasting, smoking, and baking became techniques for extending the shelf life of meat, fish, and other perishable items. Fire allowed for the creation of adhesives and pigments from natural resources, enhancing tool, making an artistic expression. Humans could experiment with different types of wood and fuel, learning which burned hotter, longer, or with less smoke. This experimentation represented an early form of scientific inquiry, as humans systematically observed cause and effect relationships and refined techniques over time. Fire's influence extended to migration patterns and survival strategies during the Ice Age. Groups could plan longer journeys into colder regions, knowing they could produce heat and cook food along the way. Campsites with reliable fire sources became hubs of activity, encouraging trade, exchange of information, and cooperation among groups. The ability to create warmth and light allowed humans to exploit resources in environments previously deemed uninhabitable, accelerating the spread of populations across continents and encouraging cultural diversity and technological variation. The process of learning to maintain and transport fire likely contributed to the development of complex social hierarchies and roles within groups. Individuals skilled in fire making would have been highly valued, responsible for maintaining warmth, preparing meals, and teaching others. This specialization reflects an early understanding of the benefits of dividing labor and recognizing individual expertise, contributing to the evolution of structured social organization. Children observing and assisting in fire maintenance would acquire essential skills from a young age, ensuring that the knowledge of fire making was preserved and refined across generations. Environmental awareness also grew from the interaction with fire. Early humans observed how fire interacted with different materials, how smoke behaved under various wind conditions, and how heat dissipated in different spaces. They understood that certain types of wood produced more heat or burned longer, that wind direction could affect flame control, and that combining fire with natural shelters could maximize warmth and safety. This intimate knowledge of natural elements was critical for survival, forming a foundation for later advances in engineering, construction, and environmental management. Fire influenced hunting and food preparation in revolutionary ways. By strategically using fire, humans could drive game into traps, create smoke to control animal movements, or cook meat that might otherwise have been too tough or dangerous to consume raw. This expanded dietary possibilities, allowing humans to consume a wider variety of food sources. Cooking also reduced chewing time and effort, further conserving energy, which was crucial in extreme cold conditions where energy expenditure needed to be carefully balanced with caloric intake. The symbolic and cognitive impact of fire cannot be overstated. Humans likely imbued fire with meanings beyond its practical uses, seeing it as a source of life, power, and protection. This symbolism may have influenced early rituals, storytelling, and the formation of myths, reinforcing communal identity and shared understanding of the natural world. The interplay of fire, light, and shadow around prehistoric campsites could have inspired imagination, artistic expression, and early forms of spiritual thought, demonstrating that fire shaped not just survival, but also the intellectual and cultural evolution of humans. Life during the Ice Age was an unending struggle against nature, where every day presented challenges that required ingenuity, resilience, and cooperation. Prehistoric humans lived in a world dominated by glaciers, snow-covered landscapes, and freezing temperatures, a world in which survival demanded a constant negotiation between risk and reward. The very rhythm of daily life revolved around securing food, maintaining shelter, protecting oneself from predators, and finding ways to endure the cold. Unlike modern humans, who benefit from technology, transportation, and global trade, these early humans relied entirely on their skills, knowledge of the environment, and physical endurance. Their lives were cyclical, determined by seasonal patterns, animal migrations, and the availability of natural resources, and each decision carried immediate consequences for survival. Hunting was central to daily existence and the primary source of nutrition. The large mammals of the Ice Age, such as mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, reindeer, and bison, were essential not only for meat but also for clothing, tools, and shelter. Hunting these animals required careful observation, planning, and cooperation. Early humans needed to understand migration routes, feeding habits, and seasonal behaviors to predict where and when prey could be found. Tracking animals over frozen landscapes demanded stamina, patience, and skill, as well as a keen understanding of signs in the environment, such as footprints, broken branches, or the behavior of other animals that indicated the presence of prey. Hunting was rarely a solo endeavor. It involved groups working together, coordinating strategies, and using tools to overcome animals, often much larger and stronger than themselves. The tools used in hunting were products of human ingenuity and adaptation. Stone-tipped spears, bows, and arrows allowed hunters to strike from a safer distance, while clubs and hand axes provided the means to finish a kill up close. Tools were carefully crafted from available materials, such as flint, bone, antler, and wood, and maintaining these tools required constant attention. Sharpening, repairing, and replacing implements was a daily task, one that required knowledge of materials, techniques, and environmental conditions. Hunting was not merely a physical challenge, it was also a cognitive one, demanding foresight, creativity, and problem-solving in order to succeed against swift, strong, and unpredictable prey. The preparation and consumption of food also shaped daily life. Meat had to be butchered efficiently, distributed among group members, and cooked if fire was available. Cooking, smoking, and preserving food were essential for survival, particularly during long winters when fresh resources were scarce. The ability to store and ration food allowed humans to survive periods of scarcity, demonstrating an early understanding of resource management. Plant foods, although less abundant in cold climates, were collected when available, including roots, berries, and seeds. This required knowledge of edible versus poisonous plants, seasonal availability, and techniques for harvesting and storing them safely. Each meal was a carefully negotiated outcome of labor, observation, and environmental knowledge, with failure carrying immediate consequences. Shelter was another central concern in daily life. Exposure to freezing temperatures, strong winds, and snowstorms was deadly, so early humans sought out natural shelters like caves, rock overhangs, or dense vegetation. Over time, they learned to enhance these shelters with additional materials, such as animal hides, wooden frameworks, and insulating layers of grass or moss. The construction and maintenance of shelters required significant effort and planning, as well as cooperation among group members. Shelters were not only protection from the elements, but also safe spaces for rest, social interaction, and the development of communal life. The interior of a shelter was carefully organized to maximize warmth, store resources, and provide space for tasks such as tool making, food preparation, and childcare. Adaptation to the harsh climate extended to clothing and personal protection. Frostbite, hypothermia, and exposure were constant threats, so humans developed garments from animal hides, fur, and woven fibers. These were sewn together using sinew or plant-based threads and layered strategically to retain heat. Footwear, head coverings, and gloves were essential for navigating snow and ice, while clothing also served as a form of identity and group cohesion. The process of preparing clothing was labor-intensive, involving scraping, softening, and stitching hides, yet it was vital for survival. Clothing reflected both practical needs and cultural knowledge, passed down through generations, as part of a shared understanding of how to endure extreme conditions. Daily life also required constant attention to water and fuel. Water sources were often frozen, requiring humans to melt ice or snow to obtain drinkable water, a task that consumed both energy and time. Firewood and other fuels had to be collected, stored, and managed to maintain warmth and enable cooking. The scarcity of resources forced humans to plan ahead, anticipate seasonal shortages, and make strategic decisions about the allocation of labor and materials. Each day involved a delicate balance between immediate needs and long-term survival, with the understanding that neglect in any area could have dire consequences. Social organization was deeply intertwined with these survival strategies. Humans lived in small, cooperative groups, sharing tasks such as hunting, gathering, childcare, and fire maintenance. Leadership and decision-making likely emerged organically based on experience, skill, and the ability to solve problems in ways that benefited the group. Knowledge was transmitted orally, through demonstration and observation, ensuring that survival strategies, tool-making techniques, and environmental knowledge were preserved across generations. Social cohesion was not just a cultural feature, but a survival mechanism, allowing humans to pool resources, coordinate hunts, and protect one another from both environmental and predatory threats. Children and adolescents played an active role in daily life, learning through observation, imitation, and practice. From an early age, they were exposed to the realities of survival, participating in tasks appropriate to their abilities, while gradually acquiring the skills necessary for independent contribution. Adolescents might assist in hunting, gather plant foods, maintain fire, or learn to construct shelters, gaining experience that would prepare them for adult responsibilities. The training of the young was crucial for the continuation of knowledge and the survival of the group, ensuring that skills were passed down and refined over time. Interactions with predators shaped much of human behavior. Wolves, saber-toothed cats, bears, and other large carnivores posed constant threats to both individuals and food stores. Humans developed strategies to mitigate these dangers using fire, weapons, and cooperative defense. Early humans also learned to recognize signs of predator presence, such as tracks, scat, or disturbed vegetation, and to respond with caution and strategy. The constant presence of danger sharpened observation skills, increased vigilance, and reinforced the importance of communal living and coordinated action. Seasonal cycles dictated much of daily life. Summers brought opportunities for gathering plant foods, repairing shelters, and preparing for winter, while winter demanded heightened attention to warmth, food storage, and maintaining mobility across frozen landscapes. Spring and autumn were periods of transition, requiring careful planning to ensure that resources were sufficient to endure periods of scarcity. These cycles created a rhythm to human activity, a pattern of labor and survival that structured both daily routines and longer-term planning. Technology and innovation were constant companions in the struggle for survival. Humans experimented with new types of tools, improved hunting techniques, and developed methods to store and preserve food. They observed the properties of different materials, understanding which stones produced sharp edges, which woods burned hottest, and which hides offered the best insulation. Each innovation was tested in the harsh crucible of the Ice Age, refined through trial and error, and incorporated into the daily routines of the group. These technological advancements were incremental but cumulative, laying the foundation for more complex tools, clothing, and shelters in future generations. The mental and emotional resilience of early humans was as important as physical skill. Life was unpredictable, and the constant struggle for survival required adaptability, courage, and problem-solving. Humans learned to anticipate dangers, assess risks, and make decisions under pressure, developing cognitive skills that were essential for enduring extreme conditions. Emotional bonds within groups provided support, motivation, and stability, allowing individuals to face the challenges of each day with a sense of shared purpose and mutual reliance. Art, symbolism, and communication may also have emerged as part of daily life, intertwined with practical survival tasks. Cave paintings, carvings, and symbolic objects could serve multiple functions, marking territory, recording information, sharing knowledge, or reinforcing group identity. These cultural expressions were often closely linked to the natural environment and survival activities, reflecting an intimate understanding of animals, plants, landscapes, and climatic conditions. Through these early forms of expression, humans were able to encode and transmit knowledge, reinforce social bonds, and engage with the world cognitively and spiritually, not just physically. Adaptation in the prehistoric world was dynamic and continuous. Humans constantly monitored their environment, adjusting strategies in response to changing conditions, predator pressures, and resource availability. This adaptive flexibility was a hallmark of Ice Age survival, enabling humans to endure in climates that were often unforgiving. Each day presented a complex interplay of observation, action, and reflection, with humans leveraging every available advantage. From tool making to fire, from clothing to social cooperation. To maximize their chances of survival, hunting techniques evolved in response to environmental conditions, with early humans learning to exploit terrain, weather, and animal behavior to their advantage. During winter, frozen landscapes provided both opportunities and challenges. Snow could conceal tracks or allow hunters to follow prey with ease, But it also made movement more exhausting and increased the risk of frostbite and hypothermia. Humans developed strategies such as driving animals toward natural traps, cliffs, or ambush points, often using coordinated group movements and communication through gestures or sounds. These cooperative strategies required planning, timing, and trust among group members, demonstrating an early form of strategic thinking and teamwork that was vital for survival in a harsh climate. Scavenging supplemented hunting efforts, as early humans were opportunistic in sourcing food. Carcasses left by predators, fish trapped under ice, or small mammals and birds could provide essential nutrition when large game was unavailable. Scavenging required caution, skill, and knowledge of predator behavior, as confrontations with other carnivores could be deadly. Tools made from bone, stone, and antler allowed humans to efficiently process scavenged meat and extract marrow, which was a rich source of calories and nutrients. Every resource had value, and waste was minimized, reflecting a profound understanding of efficiency and survival economics that shaped daily life. Water procurement was equally critical and often dictated movement and activity patterns. Frozen rivers, lakes, and streams required humans to melt ice or snow over fire, while liquid water sources might be scarce during the coldest months. Humans learned to identify safe water, distinguish between fresh and contaminated sources, and plan their routes to ensure access. This knowledge was not static. It evolved through observation, trial, and shared experience, becoming part of the collective memory of the group and influencing the selection of settlement locations. Water availability also influenced hunting and gathering, as animals followed water sources, creating predictable opportunities for prey encounters. Food storage and preservation were essential survival skills. Smoke, fire, drying, and freezing became methods to extend the usability of meat and plants. Early humans developed rudimentary methods of burying or insulating food in snow, storing it in caves, or hanging it from structures to keep it safe from scavengers and decay. These preservation techniques allowed for longer-term planning, reducing the vulnerability of the group during lean periods. The ability to store food reliably increased group stability, reduced stress, and enabled more complex social organization, as individuals could dedicate time to tasks beyond immediate subsistence, such as tool making, shelter improvement, or exploration. Shelter construction reflected both ingenuity and adaptation to local resources. Caves were the most obvious choice when available, but humans also built shelters from wood, bone, and hides when natural formations were absent. Snow and ice could be used as insulation, creating walls or windbreaks that provided warmth in extreme conditions. Shelters were not static, they were continuously repaired, expanded, and adapted to seasonal changes. The interior layout was carefully considered, with designated areas for fire, tool storage, food preparation, sleeping, and social interaction. This spatial organization demonstrates that early humans were capable of abstract thinking and planning, designing functional living spaces that balanced comfort, efficiency, and safety. Daily routines were also shaped by the need to maintain tools. Hunting and survival required sharp, functional implements, and a significant portion of time was devoted to producing, repairing, and enhancing these tools. Stone knapping, bone shaping, and wood carving were practiced with precision, and knowledge of materials was critical. Flint, obsidian, and other stones were selected for hardness and sharpness, while bone and antler were chosen for flexibility and durability. Tools were multifunctional, serving as hunting weapons, cutting implements, scraping devices, or ceremonial objects. The mastery of tools not only improved survival, but also fostered creativity, problem-solving, and cultural expression, as humans experimented with designs and techniques to improve efficiency and effectiveness. Clothing remained a continuous concern, especially in extreme cold. Early humans experimented with layering hides, fur, and woven fibers to optimize insulation and mobility. They learned to waterproof and soften materials, sewing pieces together with sinew or plant fibers to create garments that protected against wind, snow, and moisture. Footwear evolved to allow mobility across snow, ice, and rough terrain, reducing the risk of injury and frostbite. Clothing also had social and symbolic significance, with patterns, decoration, or fur types potentially signaling group identity, status, or skill. The creation and maintenance of clothing was labor-intensive, often taking hours each day. but it was essential for survival in conditions that were both physically and mentally demanding. Fire maintenance was a constant task that integrated with all aspects of daily life. Fire was needed for warmth, cooking, protection, tool making, and even signaling during travel or hunting. Humans had to collect fuel, manage embers, and prevent accidental extinguishing. The fire became a central point of activity around which tasks were organized and social bonds reinforced. Fire management required foresight, coordination, and skill, and those adept at sustaining fire were highly valued within the group. Fire allowed humans to extend daily activities into nighttime hours, providing light for social interaction, storytelling, and teaching essential skills. Children's roles in daily life were both practical and educational. They participated in simple tasks such as collecting firewood, assisting with food preparation, or observing hunting and tool-making activities. Through observation and imitation, they acquired the skills necessary to contribute effectively to the group as adults. Play may have served as preparation for survival skills, allowing children to practice tracking, throwing, and problem-solving in controlled environments. The transmission of knowledge across generations was critical for continuity, ensuring that survival strategies, technical skills, and cultural practices persisted and evolved over time. Group mobility was dictated by the availability of resources, seasonal changes, and predator pressures. Humans migrated following herds, water sources, and favorable climate zones. Mobility required careful planning, including carrying tools, fuel, and essential supplies. Temporary camps were established, maintained, and abandoned as resources were depleted or seasons changed. Migration demanded coordination, foresight, and adaptability, reinforcing social cohesion and strategic thinking. The ability to move effectively across vast, frozen landscapes expanded the range of human habitation and allowed for the exploitation of diverse ecological niches. Interactions with other species were multifaceted. Humans competed with predators for food, but also observed and learned from them. Understanding predator behavior helped humans avoid danger, predict prey movements, and develop hunting strategies. Humans may have also formed symbiotic relationships with certain animals, such as scavenging alongside wolves or other carnivores. The dynamic interaction between humans and their environment required observation, learning, and adaptation, forming a continuous feedback loop in which knowledge, behavior, and survival outcomes were closely linked. The mental and emotional dimensions of survival were equally important. Harsh conditions required resilience, patience, and problem-solving under pressure. Social support and cooperative behavior mitigated stress and improved the chances of survival. Humans developed cognitive skills such as planning, memory, risk assessment, and strategic thinking, which were essential for navigating the challenges of daily life. Emotional bonds reinforced group cohesion, while storytelling and symbolic expression may have provided mental relief, cultural continuity, and a framework for understanding the natural world. The interplay of hunting, foraging, shelter, clothing, fire, and social organization defined the daily rhythm of life. Humans continuously adapted to changing conditions, refining techniques, experimenting with new strategies, and responding to immediate threats. Every aspect of existence, from tool making to fire maintenance, from clothing preparation to hunting coordination, was influenced by the environment and dictated by survival imperatives. Humans were not passive inhabitants of the Ice Age. They were active participants, shaping and being shaped by their surroundings, demonstrating remarkable ingenuity, flexibility, and resilience.